I always do that. I'm a night rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.
What's going on, bookworms, and welcome back to the 74th edition of Bookmarks with Bump, the social commentary podcast where your favorite endurance running, tool setting, certified personal trainer goes over threads that could range from anything from fitness to something topical. Whatever's on the docket, whatever slides across my Twitter feed that I deem interesting enough to talk about, that's what we talk about. And we're very closely nearing the last of the old threads. And out with the old, in with the new, as they say. But today we will take a pit stop. Without moving too far ahead, we could just go into the right now. Today is Saturday, November 8th. Tomorrow, as this comes out, will be Sunday, November 9th. And Sunday, November 9th marks the 10th week of football. Before the 10th, there's the 9th. And the 9th was jam-packed with a bunch of action. More specifically, Action Jackson. He was back in the fold for Baltimore. Last Thursday night, Action Jackson was back, and he threw for 4 touchdowns, count them, 2, to Mark Andrews, the patron saint of diabetes. Derrick Henry rushed for a good 119-yard clip, and Lamar did what he does to Miami. Wins again. Handed victory, 28-6. Tua Tagovailoa was throwing balls to places they should not be. I mean, that team is just in complete disarray, and we'll be looking at a new Miami Dolphins come next year. And for Miami Dolphins fans, that day cannot come soon enough. But we had 2 teams last week that kind of screwed us over in our picks. Our picks from week 9, we did very well. 10-4, if I might add. That advances us to 44-21 on the season. Let me just do a second check. Yeah, we're 43-21 on the season so far as a collective. Our record has bounced back. We were so close to even there that I decided to just start picking the whole slate. And look what happens. Look what happens when you change things up a little bit. These 2 teams didn't change things up that much at all. There was a absolute shootout, and it happened in Cincinnati. The 2 teams that screwed us over 2 weeks ago played last Sunday in a battle of wills. Caleb Williams bounced back from a few immature performances to introduce the world to Colston Loveland, who had a welcome to the NFL performance, catching 6 of 7 targets for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns, including the game winner with the time expiring on the clock. Now, in a situation where all they needed was a field goal to win, Colston said, "I'm not going down." He broke 2 tackles, ran through the middle of the field, and when he crossed the end zone, when he crossed the plane, he was holding the ball with both hands. All right? Take that, Amari DiMercato. Take that, A.D. Mitchell. Look at what happens when you hold the ball with 2 hands. Your touchdown counts. Kyle Managai was also put on a performance in that game. He exploded against the Cincy defense for 176 yards on 26 carries, and the Bengals would only rush for 46 yards as a collective in this game. What a shame for 40-year-old Joe Flacco to have a 470-yard performance it just went to waste in a 47-42 loss. What might have been the most exciting game on the slate last week was a letdown for the Bengals, who thought they were seemingly rolling and then got steamrolled by the Chicago Bears. This may be the second best game of all time, next to the Rams-Chiefs game from years back on Monday Night Football. This game had 0 extra time and went for 89 total points. That's a doozy. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins would both go for 100 yards each. DJ Moore ran in a 17-yard touchdown, and Rome Odunze didn't catch 1 ball, and his dad is pulling an Odell Beckham Sr., tweeting all week and making the locker room very awkward for his young lad. Moving on. In a game that was testy and vital for the Lions' quest to dominate the NFC North, the Lions, despite Goff throwing for 284 and 2 touchdowns, were limited by how much this Brian Flores defense confused and stifled their run game. Monty and Gibbs were held to just 65 yards, and they're calling them ass and cheeks again. While Aaron Jones ran wild and J.J. McCarthy made the plays when it mattered the most, propelling the Vikings to a huge 27-24 victory in the NFC North, and that division, more specifically, could have all four teams vying for a playoff spot at the end of the season. Going into the season, after the Micah Parsons move was made, the Packers were talked about as Super Bowl favorites. And then the Lions last year, they were Super Bowl contenders. And you have the Vikings, who are also 14-2 towards the end of the season there with Sam Darnold. They figured they got their guy, and J.J. McCarthy. These guys are Super Bowl contenders. And then you get Ben Johnson out of Detroit and into Chicago as a head coach, helping form Caleb Williams into the player that we all thought he would be. And now we have four teams in the NFC North that can go. And another NFC North team that got upset at the hands of the Panthers. The Panthers held down and held on to a huge upset win over the Packers on Lambeau Field. Rico Dowdle exploded yet again. This guy is making a name for himself this season. He rushed for 130 yards, and you could talk about Bryce Young throwing an interception and only totaling for 102 yards. Because, Jordan Love threw for 273, but he lost. As my lady would say, a win is a win. Unfortunately, in this game, Green Bay did lose their best receiver, Tucker Kraft, to an ACL. And one thing to look at in this game is like the way that Bryce Young is becoming a professional here. Okay? Bryce Young is at the line of scrimmage, and he's tricking the defense on run plays by signaling different dummy pass protection calls to the offensive line, calling out different hots and calling out different linebackers to shift protections one way or another. But when you have a run play, your run play is designed, your linemen are designed to move in a certain direction, and they're not going to steer off of that course, and they did not. And it did confuse the defense. The kid can play. Bryce Young can play, and he can play with the best of them, beating a storied franchise 16-3 on Sunday. When Cody Barton and the Titans peeled off a pick six, it seemed as if the Chargers would drop another rung down the ladder of despair they've been in for the last 17 years or so. They're always so close, but always so far away, especially with a Hall of Famer like Phillip Rivers. To never get into the AFC Championship, to never get into a Super Bowl, it's such a shame, and it would be a shame for that to repeat history with Justin Herbert. The Chargers still snuck away with a 27-20 win here, but they did lose to injury. Joe Alt, their other tackle. They lost Rashawn Slater before the season started, and now they just lost Joe Alt, who's out with a serious high ankle sprain that's requiring surgery. And looking forward for the Chargers, things look dim, especially in that AFC West that's loaded with the Broncos right now. The Chiefs are making a run at it. You don't know where the Chargers are going. Speaking of the West, we'll move to the NFC West, where the 49ers put on a masterclass against the Giants, reminding the New York team in New Jersey what the importance of a run game is. The Niners carried the ball for 39 times and took a ton of time off the clock. And then they also have Christian McCaffrey, which will help any team. CMC was the leading receiver, leading rusher, leading touchdown scorer, leading blocker, and all of those contributions led to a San Francisco win, 34-24, over the Giants. The Giants, they're up and down. They're always shaky, and you never know who they are. You think you do, and then they change their jerseys on you, just like the Steelers. Every time you think you know the Steelers, they pull turnovers out of their sleeves. With Danny Jones riding the highest high and the Colts reveling in their 7-1 record, the sneaky Steelers caught their quarterback off guard to a tune of 5 times in that game. 5 sacks that resulted in 2 lost fumbles, and despite throwing for 342 yards, playing from behind and forcing the ball downfield, forced Danny Dimes into the Danny Dumps, throwing 3 interceptions. The Steelers' offense wasn't particularly special, and that's the problem here. And that needs to change, because you won't always force 6 turnovers on a team that helps propel your team to a victory. The Steelers had 6 turnovers in that game and still won by 7 points. They only won by a touchdown in that game. And what happens if they don't get the ball, if they don't have those extra possessions? Assuming that they're not scoring 27 points. That's a problem that needs to get fixed in Pittsburgh. It needs a Fixburg. The Broncos do it again in vintage Broncos fashion at this point in the season. They rally in the fourth quarter and put away the hobbling Houston Texans. The Broncos defense keep the Texans from scoring a touchdown while Bo Nix finds Cortland Sutton and R.J. Harvey in the end zone. And he finds enough yardage with seconds winding off the clock for Will Lutz to kick another game winner to propel the Broncos to an 18-15 win and number one in the AFC West, leading over the Chargers, leading over the Chiefs, and the Raiders. We don't even have to talk about them, but we're going to right now because I told you this would be a fishy game. There was something here where I thought maybe the Jaguars would drop it, even coming off a bye, and they almost did. The Raiders had the Jaguars right where they wanted them, heading into the fourth quarter with a 9-6 lead, and then Allegiant Stadium's roof had a hole blown right through it. 31 points scored between the two teams, and we're looking at a 23-23 tie with zeros on the clock. Brock Bowers shined in his return, catching 12 of 13 targets for 127 yards and 3 touchdowns, but it would be Trevor Lawrence running 2 in that turned the tide. Trevor would lead the Jags on a 7-minute drive and lift the ball over the goal line to take a 7-point lead and give the Raiders 3 minutes to work with in overtime here. However, this Sunday, Geno Smith had a great game. He went 29 of 39 for 284 yards and 3 touchdowns at this point. Pete Carroll knew this and was confident in his quarterback as he marched down the field and found Brock Bowers for Geno's 4th touchdown of the day. Carroll wanted the win, and he kept the ball in Geno's hand. Rather than kicking the extra point and ending the game in a tie, which I agree with, this is football. There should be no ties, so shout out to Pete Carroll for trying. For the good of football, he went for 2 and the pass fell short. So, with all of that build-up, what an anticlimactic ending for the Jags to win 30-29. More build-up here with Matt Stafford, who's continuing to lead the Rams into dominating wins, making his case for MVP, throwing 2 of his 4 touchdowns on the day to Devontae Adams, while Puka Nacua came back into the fold and catches one for himself, leading the team in yards as he always does with 95, and the Rams won handedly, 34-10. Are the Saints taking for Arch Manning? Because I don't know if that's a great strategy at this point. Arch hasn't shown a lot on the field in Texas. They're not really the team that they were supposed to be. They were at number 1 heading into the season, ranked number 1 heading into the season. They play Ohio State the first game of the season and get demolished. And guess who's number 1 and has been since that game? Ohio State. Saints might want to start looking for a different quarterback, but who knows? I mean, it's still early in Tyler Shuck's career. He's played in 2 games. He'll be starting his 2nd this week. But there's a lot of holes in that team that need to be filled. Josh Allen and the Bills. Talking about holes. Josh Allen keeps the regular season crown as the Bills' defensive flurry hits Mahomes 15 times. They sacked him 3 times, but they ran into him 15 and gave him a ton of pressure and made it hard for him to operate on this day here. He limited the Chiefs' newly proven offense to 2 touchdowns, this being the Bills' defense. Dalton Kincaid went for over 101 yards on a team where they're struggling to find their leading receiver and a touchdown, while James Cook added 114 yards on the ground. They are letting James Cook, and he's been playing very well, especially against the Chiefs, who have a tough defense. Years past, the Chiefs' offense have taken over for a bad defense, and then it flips. The offensive weapons, the offensive firepower goes to the wayside, and then what do we have here? We have a defensive powerhouse in the Kansas City Chiefs, and now they're kind of wavering back and forth. But nonetheless, the regular season battle of the postseason winners ended with the Bills winning 28-21. Now, here's a team that might get serious here. The Seahawks. The Seahawks might seriously be some Super Bowl contenders when you look at this team. The Commanders are in serious trouble, though. Washington seemingly loses Jaden Daniels to a gruesome dislocated elbow, marking his 3rd injury of the season, handing the keys over to Marcus Mariota for now. Okay, so Washington has a game on Sunday night this week, and then they go into a bye week. They said they're going to assess Jaden Daniels during the bye. They're not putting the guy on IR. If I was Jaden, I wouldn't play. We look back at the Washington Commanders the Washington football team, the Washington Redskins, and they've always had this curse over them when it comes to having a good quarterback with Joe Theismann and Alex Smith and RG3. All of them, they had their careers wrecked by this team. And I think Jaden Daniels is throwing his hat in the ring for the next contender there. And that's something that scares me for a team that had so much promise going to the NFC Championship last season. And for a player with so much talent and skill and command, people are excited to watch Jaden Daniels. People are excited to watch the football team in Washington, whatever you want to call them. But the excitement goes away without Jaden Daniels. And I think it would be best for him and the team to kind of fall as far as they can in this year's draft, solidify their offensive line in the offseason, and then try it again with the guy before they get him killed. But Sam Darnold, though, he was perfect through the first half. In the game, he goes 21 for 24 for 330 yards and 4 touchdowns, while Jackson Smith-Njigba goes for 129 yards. Yet again, another game over 100. He's only had 2 games this season where he hasn't broached 100 yards, and those were the only 2 games where he had less than 9 targets. So the guy's getting a ton of looks. Sam Darnold, his life is like where he was at the beginning of his career to where he is right now. The ultimate redemption arc. You got to love watching players like him and Baker Mayfield just stick in and battle through adversity and build their careers to the point where they are now. The Seahawks defense smother yet again, and the Seattle's offseason moves and investments are proving themselves every week of this new Mike McDonald era. They completely stripped Seattle of what its identity was beforehand. With the Pete Carroll era, Russell Wilson and the Legion of Boom, it's a brand new team. Of course, I mean, it's a brand new team every year, but they're not holding on to the past in any way. They are moving forward with conviction. And look what it's amounting to. A 38-14 commanding win over the Commanders. We'll talk about my New England Patriots. Usually we go in chronological order of these games, but I like to save the best for last sometimes. And this team left us with a nail-biter this week. I wouldn't know that too much because I did fall asleep during halftime. Don't tell anybody. But before that happened, Drake May found Pop Douglas and Stephon Diggs before handing off to Terrell Jennings and not Travion Henderson for whatever reason. They give it to the other backup running back, and they take a 21-7 lead into halftime. And then it seemed like the Falcons just took their game plan from a couple of weeks ago when they played the Bills and mirrored Drake May as if he was Josh Allen. They sacked him 6 times in this contest, while Michael Penix, his name is such a tongue twister, man. Or I just can't speak. I don't know what it is. But Michael Penix played very well, and Drake London balled out. London went for 118 yards on 8 catches, and he was the owner of all 3 Michael Penix touchdowns. Bijan came back to form a little bit in this game, but the Patriots' quick lead in the run defense limited to 46 yards on the ground. I believe it was 12 carries. However, it would be fate who'd win this game. With a chance to tie it with 4 minutes left, a gust of wind or the hand of God himself would keep Parker Romo's extra point from splitting the uprights, ultimately leading to a Patriots 24-23 victory, a 7-2 record, and the top seed in the AFC East and the AFC. For now. Okay, that changes. It changes very soon here, and we'll get to it in a minute. Monday Night Football happened. I didn't watch it thanks to Disney. We're going to dive into that. But leading into it with all the chatter of Jacoby over Kyler, you kind of felt it. This Cardinal team has been just as confusing as the Cowboys all season. Losing streaks in tight games, injuries and defensive follies, but in prime time they put it all together and roll over the boys in Dallas. Amari DiMercado reemerges from the depths for 79 yards on 14 carries, gashing the Cowboys defense who leave way too many holes on the ground, while the journeyman Brissett would take 5 sacks on his way to throwing 2 touchdowns and running one in himself. The Cardinals' defense kind of made it difficult for this prolific Dallas offense to find the end zone, while Denzel Burke found his first interception of his career in AT&T Stadium, while the Cards win 27-17 and find their first win in 5 weeks. So shout out to the Cardinals for putting it together. Going forward, Jacoby Brissett's going to be the starter there. Kyler Murray is on IR with a foot injury. But it almost sounds like the rumblings coming out of Arizona right now is that they almost want to move on from Kyler Murray, which is wild because he's a generational talent. Player who's drafted in the top 10 in both the MLB and the NFL. That does not happen. Somebody who could very easily use his athletic prowess to transcend across different sports. Is just kind of getting overlooked as the quarterback here in Arizona. And it could go back to years ago where in his contract extension, they stipulated the amount of gaming time he'd be able to have in his leisurely time. But nonetheless, they're not moving on right now. That's evident because the trade deadline came and went this week, and it all seemed to start when the Ravens traded Jair Alexander to the Eagles. Howie Roseman was working on the bye week because they also made a trade for Jalen Phillips with the Dolphins. So the reigning Super Bowl champs continue to bolster their defense in hopes to make another push, adding their edge rusher and adding an all-pro cornerback in Jair Alexander. As the deadline came around, one team seemed to push their players out instead of pull them in. The New York Jets made huge splashes in what seems to be an active rebuild in the middle of the season. A fire sale, if you would. Because they shipped off a couple of names you didn't think they would. 2 defensive staples are now out of that team. One being Sauce Gardner, who was shipped off to the Colts for 2 first-round picks, and A.D. Mitchell, the wide receiver who fumbled before hitting the goal line. Is an explosive talent. Just kind of immature. So the Colts ship off their immature talent and get back an all-pro cornerback in Sauce Gardner, who's had a little bit of a slump the last couple of years, but I think Indianapolis is a place where he can kind of be reinvigorated by the culture in the locker room. What you see out of Indy is a team that's really making a big push, and sometimes a player with an immense amount of talent, that's all they need is to be on a team that's doing great things instead of being around just individuals, because that's kind of what the Jets seem like to me. Then they got rid of Quinnen Williams, their stalwart defensive tackle. The big boy takes up a ton of blocks and disrupts the run game, which is kind of exactly what the Cowboys needed. They shipped him off to the Cowboys for 2 more picks and Mozzie Smith, while trading a pick to the Chargers for defensive back Jasir Taylor. So they moved 2 players and 1 pick for 3 players and 4 picks back. Seems like a good deal, because in the next 2 drafts, the Jets have 7 picks in the first 2 rounds, and they might have just won the trade deadline day. The Cowboys, another team that needed some help in the defensive area, they were hoping to sturdy up their defense by adding Williams, as well as middle linebacker Logan Wilson, who has been screaming for a trade out of the Bengals. They traded Cincinnati a 7th-round pick, and that's all it took to get Logan off the squad. Jacoby Myers requested a trade in the offseason. Probably when he saw the way that Geno Smith threw the ball, he said, I need to get the hell out of here. And he finally got one on deadline day as he was sent to Jacksonville for a 4th and 6th round pick, helping the Jags fill the slot that Travis Hunter leaves behind as he's on IR. Another wide receiver is on the move, and this one surprises me, as the Saints move on from their deep threat specialist, Rashid Shaheed, who had been the leading receiver, surprisingly, over Chris Olave for the last 2 seasons. He goes up to Seattle, where Sam Darnold will be happy to welcome him. I mean, it just makes no sense how you're giving this player who's shown you what he's capable of doing with this speed and talent in the wide receiver room. Just give him another receiver. We don't care. That's an interesting move by the Saints there in their own conference. But they also move on from their veteran lineman Trevor Penning for a 6th-round pick. So they get a couple picks back. You know, cool. I hope they use them wisely because they definitely need the help. Yeah, so I didn't watch Monday Night Football because of what's going on with Disney. I am a YouTube TV subscriber. And all last week, YouTube TV, well, it started a couple weeks back where YouTube TV was kind of warning us, hey, we might lose ESPN. They're not really budging in these negotiations. And then last week, before Saturday, before college football, before college game day, everything that matters to a guy like me when it comes to watching TV. This is the only reason I subscribed to a TV provider, was to get Sunday Ticket and was to watch ESPN. And look what they've done to me for their corporate greed. So it's a very interesting scenario, the way they rolled it out, by saying, hey, let's go and sign this petition at Keep Our Networks and tell YouTube TV we need ESPN. So ESPN, which is owned by Disney shoots YouTube TV in the face and then tells the world that YouTube TV has a gun. That's almost seemingly what it's like. I don't understand how you could have me petition against my subscriber when you're the person who has all the cards on the table. How much money is Disney worth? That's actually a question I could answer right now. Okay, so one share of Disney is $110.74 if you wanted to buy into their stock, which is going down right now. And compared to where it was, it was a dollar more. It was a dollar more earlier this morning. That's just one day. So let's go through 1 month. And if you go through 1 month, they are on the decline. They kind of peaked at $114 back on October 21st, and right now they're down $4 a share. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the way they're operating their business right now. But we're talking about a corporation that has a market cap of $200 billion. It's the 82nd most valuable company, according to companiesmarketcap.com. How much is enough? And I think that's the question that needs to be asked in this situation. How much money is enough money for billionaires? Okay, so like Bob Iger and Jimmy Sexton, Jimmy Pitaro, the people who are running ESPN, the people who are at the head of these corporations are making millions and millions of dollars a year. So say you take your providers, right? And your providers agree to a contract where they will air your network for a allotted amount of time for an allotted amount of money. Say the deal for YouTube TV is like $300 million a year. I don't know what it is. You take that, say you have 1 million subscribers. Okay, so now you have $300 a year. When it comes to how much money you need to get out of your subscribers in order to cover the cost of airing that network. That seems like an egregious number to me. So the more I go through it, that's probably not what the figures are. They're probably much smaller. But if that's the case, what are we even talking about here? So YouTube TV said no, because we already raised the price of subscriptions, and we're not going to do that again to our customers. And Disney basically said, I don't give a shit about your customers, because we have Hulu and we have Fubo. And if we want these people to get off of your subscription, we can very easily do that and provide them with a subscription that's very similar. Why do I like YouTube TV? I'll tell you why. Because I could set it up myself. I didn't have to wait at home all day for a guy to come who was telling me he'd be here anywhere from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. There's no 8-hour window when it comes to setup. There's no equipment. There's no hardware. It's on my laptop. So if I go anywhere with my laptop, I have my cable subscription right there. And I can watch my ESPN. I can watch my ABC. Hell, if I even wanted to watch Disney, I could go back and watch old Hannah Montana reruns. But that's not anything that I'm looking towards. I just want to watch football. And I couldn't do that because of Disney. And Disney is trying to make it out to sound like it's because of YouTube TV. YouTube TV signed their first agreement. Now, over time, things appreciate, so things are going to cost more as time goes on. That's natural, right? They must be asking for something completely egregious, and they must be asking for something that's trying to kill the subscription. And that's something that they're allowed to do in a way. And it's not just because they have Hulu, okay? Them having Hulu makes it easier for them to put the ball in YouTube TV's court, because YouTube TV could lose subscribers because they're not carrying ESPN. That is kind of the design behind all of this, if you ask me. Disney is trying to kill YouTube TV because they find them as a threat to their Hulu TV base, and they don't want any threats. Corporations don't like threats. Ask John D. Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller, not only did he find the oil, not only did he build the refineries, he also built the railroads to transport all of these things from place to place, from the product to the consumer. That's a monopoly. And that's what Teddy Roosevelt went out and died for. He didn't really die for it, it's just what I say. I mean, I'm saying right now that Teddy's got to be rolling in his grave because of the way that this corporation, Disney, the owner of the happiest place on earth, what Disney is doing to kind of perpetuate a monopoly. That's just... It's not right. It's just greed. It's not thinking about your consumer. It's not thinking about your customer. It's not the happiest place on earth. Like, YouTube TV was monumental when it first came out, and it's still monumental. I mean, name me another subscriber. Name me another cable or satellite subscriber that I can go and watch 4 games at once in. You can't. Not only 4 games at once, they have Sunday Ticket. And if you think about that, could this be something to push out Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV in order for Hulu to make a run for it? Like, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars exchanging in these companies, and we talked about it last week with the web of money, specifically in tech, how those trillions of dollars get circulated. This is another way for Disney to become an Nvidia of their own. And for anybody who has YouTube TV, I'm telling you what I'm telling myself, and that's just to hold strong. Anybody from YouTube that's watching this, don't give in to their bullshit. They know they're making a mistake. It's widely known that they're making a mistake. It's talked about everywhere that they're making a mistake. And so eventually they're going to have to make their own bed and lie in it. Or they'll turn around and shape things up, like they did after they made that Snow White movie with that weird lady who was talking about how Snow White hated men. Now, I don't think she ever met Snow White, but she was spewing woke bullshit, and look what happened. Disney made a full 180 turn and is trying to appease to their customer base again with their new movies, which I don't fucking know what they are, but I'm not a parent, so it's not really prevalent to me what Disney has going on. I'm not a Disney adult either. I never planned to be one. So it's just weird. It's just weird activity from a bunch of greedy people who just can't get fat enough. But that's enough about that. We'll move on to week 10. Who knows? Maybe I'll be able to watch Monday Night Football this week. I hope so, because it's a great matchup. And if I'm not able to watch it, I will illegally stream it. You hear that, Disney? Week 10 in the NFL started on Thursday. Unfortunately, I'm recording this on Saturday, so we won't be able to add that win because I did choose the Denver Broncos in that game. And we can go down through this whole slate and quickly pick the games before we move on to the couple of threads that I have selected for today that aren't really threads. They're just kind of topics that I want to, not hamper on or not dwell on, but just mull over a little bit. We'll stay on the rails here. Denver hosted the Las Vegas Raiders in a game where I was like, okay, Denver's got this. Denver was favored by 9. They won by 3. Typical. They won by a field goal. Sean Payton loves Will Lutz. In this game, it was just 26 drives, both teams combined for 16 3-and-outs. It was just this was just a fantastic display of inefficient offenses, if you ask me. And then Max Crosby getting after Bo Nix the way he did made it really difficult for him to work in this game. And that was almost what I predicted for this game. In a way, I thought maybe there was somewhere where the Raiders would win this, but the Broncos are just doing what they have to win, and the Raiders are just trying to win. And there's a big difference in the league when it comes to that. Teams know what they're capable of, and the Raiders are a team that's trying. We'll move on. So we return back across the pond here. We have a game at 9:30 a.m. It's being played in Germany between the Indianapolis Colts and the Atlanta Falcons in the Olympic Stadium of Berlin. Berlin, Germany. Indy's favored by a touchdown here, 6.5 points. That really doesn't matter to me that much. When I see Indy, I see a team in a get-back spot. I see a team that just got Sauce Gardner. I have no idea whether or not he's playing, but that doesn't really make a difference to me in this one. DeForest Buckner not playing does make a big difference, though. It's going to be tough to stop the run, especially against a player like Bijan Robinson, who is obviously coming into shape as a generational talent, as the talent that he was sold to us as. He is who we thought he was. We can crown him. But the Indianapolis Colts need to get back to form here, and this is a good spot for them to show off some of their new toys. So let's go with Indy. I have the Giants beating Chicago in Chicago, simply because the Bengals have absolutely zero defense. And if you look at the Giants team, the one thing that they do have... God. Sorry about that. The one thing that they do have, above all else, is a stellar defensive line. With Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, they have a ton of pressure to kind of fluster Caleb Williams. And I think over the last 4 weeks, he has been playing flustered. Does that change because he's playing the Giants? I don't really think so. I think Ben Johnson can draw up a good game plan, but I think Chicago's last couple wins have been pretty lucky. And if you're winning by luck in this league, you're going to get rolled over sooner or later. And I think Jackson Dart is the kid with just enough moxie to go after them. And so he is. The Giants get a win in Chicago. Buffalo gets a win over Miami. There's really not much to talk about there. That's just kind of obvious. They're going down to Miami. Am I worried about the heat and humidity? No, not at all. It's still too early in the season for that to play too much of a factor. Baltimore at Minnesota. Now this one's tricky. This one's tricky because of what happened to the Lions last week, what Brian Flores can do on defense. However, I think there's just a little bit too much speed in that backfield when it comes to Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I think they're going to find a way to get around Brian Flores. I think that they're going to make it kind of difficult for J.J. McCarthy as well. In his first year of really playing, in his last few games, he's not like putting out impressive numbers as a quarterback goes, but he does show a ton of will and a ton of he has this drive to win. And I think that's the biggest thing about him as a quarterback, is that he's going to do whatever it takes to win. But the Ravens as a team right now need to do everything they can to win, and I think this is one of those games, and for the rest of their season, they're going to have to go into it winning, and nothing is scarier than a team full of dogs with something to lose. So, I think the Ravens take that one. I think it'll be close. A game that I don't think will be close at all will be Cleveland and New York Jets. The Jets might not score 1 point in this game, or they will. Who knows? This could be one of those situations where the Jets just shedded off all their bad skin, and now they're ready to play for real this time. But I do believe the Cleveland Browns defense is going to make it difficult for Justin Fields to work. They're going to fluster him, and when he gets flustered, that's when he plays poorly. I see Cleveland winning here. I can't really give too much into that. Next game, New England and Tampa Bay. This is a hard game for me to pick because obviously it's my favorite team. And then on the other hand, you have one of my favorite players in the league in Baker Mayfield. They are banged up right now. No Bucky Irving, no Chris Godwin. They're coming off a bye. I got to go with the Pats because they're my favorite team. I'm going to pick my favorite team every time. Hate it or love it. Carolina and New Orleans. Give me Carolina. New Orleans just sold their greatest receiver. I don't know who Tyler Shuck's going to throw the ball to now. Probably somebody wearing a Carolina Panthers jersey, if I had to guess, though. Carolina wins that game. Jacksonville wins over Houston. Houston will not be playing C.J. Stroud. He's in concussion protocol. It'll be Davis Mills taking the start, who's been the backup there since before C.J. Stroud came in to play and got drafted, but that doesn't change anything for me. Jacksonville won a tough one last week. They're probably going to try and win this one more sure-handed this week, and I think they can do it. Trevor Lawrence in the last few games has kind of shown that he's willing to do what it takes to win. And at the quarterback position, if you have somebody who's willing to take big hits, it kind of charges the rest of the team. And then they have players all around, and they just bring in Jacoby Myers. I think he's going to help out a ton. He was a leading receiver in Las Vegas the last few years. I think that trend continues. He's going to go down to Jacksonville, where they really do need the help. Brian Thomas Jr. has not been who they thought they were gonna who they thought they were gonna have. Travis Hunter is on IR. It doesn't change much for Trevor Lawrence here. Trevor Lawrence gets a win over Houston, and Seattle gets a win over Arizona in Seattle. Arizona is riding a high after winning on Monday Night Football, but the come down is real, and they're going to feel that from Sam Darnold. I think the Seattle Seahawks have that NFC West division in the bag. It's just a matter of playing those divisional opponents a few more times, and this will be one of those wins to help solidify their run into the playoffs. And when we talk about the NFC West, we have a NFC West matchup at 425 between the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco is playing Mac Jones still. Not a ton of injury to go over there. No new injuries, actually. Just on the defensive side. And if their defensive side is lacking, I think that's something that Matt Stafford is going to take advantage of. Like I said earlier, he's on an MVP run this season. That's not really going to slow down anytime soon. It's only going to ramp up as they get closer to the playoffs, as they get closer to having all their weapons together. Puka Nacua is going again. Devontae Adams is going again. And then you have Kyron Williams, who's turned out to be a great running back and a workhorse for that team. I think they have all the pieces in place to take San Francisco the full 4 rounds this week. Detroit and Washington is also at 425. I hear a rumor that the President Donald Trump will be in attendance. I don't really think that sways one team or another a certain way. But if Donald Trump is going to that game with Kid Rock, then the Lions will probably win by 50 points. I mean, Washington right now, they're really banged up. They're really hurt, and it seems like they're just kind of in disarray, especially losing Jaden Daniels again. That's a huge blow, and it's a completely different team without him there. It's very it's not a completely different team. It's very close to being operated the same way. Marcus Mariota is capable of doing a lot of the same physical things that Jaden Daniels can do, but he just doesn't throw the ball as accurately. One thing about Marcus Mariota, though, that I do like over Jaden Daniels is his decisiveness and how quickly he gets the ball out, but he needs to. You see what happens when you don't. If you're too patient, you take a beating when you're playing behind the Commanders' offensive line, and that's going to be easy for the Detroit Lions to do when they got players like Aiden Hutchinson lining up across these guys who are timid and scared. Hutchinson probably goes and gets 2 sacks of his own in this game. If I had to predict anything, that's what it is. And then we have this 8:20 matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the LA Chargers. That's going to be tough for the Chargers because Pittsburgh's going to win it. Without your 2 tackles, okay, Joe Alt was playing right tackle. Rashawn Slater got hurt. He moved to left tackle. He did a good job. He got hurt, missed a game. Chargers look like shit in that game. He comes back. They play all right. He gets hurt again. They're probably going to look like shit again. And then they're playing against a strong defensive line in the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think they're just going to make it really hard for Justin Herbert to stay inside the pocket on Sunday night. And he's going to have to move around a ton. Which he's capable of doing. He may end up being the leading rusher in this game, but the leading pointer in this game will be Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh needs wins here, especially after the Ravens are coming back. I think that's something that propelled their team on Sunday as well. They saw the Ravens go out on Thursday and perform, and they know they have to, in order to keep the AFC North, they're going to win. They're going to have to win every game that they head into. I think this is a good spot for Pittsburgh as well. It's late in the day in LA, but it's not too late comparatively with the jet lag. I think that they're going to be able to adjust and be the team that they are in Pittsburgh in SoFi on Sunday night. In Green Bay on Monday night, we have Philadelphia taking on the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are dropping games to teams they shouldn't. And the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off a bye, play very, very well. So, Philadelphia Eagles take a break last week. They recoup. They recenter. They're probably going to come out this week with a brand new looking offense. Saquon Barkley's probably going to go for 150 because he hasn't yet. And Green Bay is going to lose 2 games in a row at home on Lambeau Field. And kind of show the world who we've learned that they are. You remember back in like week 6 or week 5, maybe it was, when I started calling out the contenders and the pretenders in this league, and I told you that the Packers were pretenders because they always are. Yeah, they continue to prove that to us. They are just pretenders and bad actors, and you know, that's a perfect segue into the very first thread of this episode, and it's a video, and we're just going to pull it right up and play it.
Good morning, New York City. Thank you. Last night we made history. Today, we begin the work of making a new administration. Welcome to the transition. This is a period over the next few months where we build a city hall that delivers on the promises of our campaign, to make New York City affordable and to make government accountable to the people it serves. As we prepare to govern, we'll start announcing the leaders who will help implement our agenda.
It's a pretty expensive jacket.
We'll oversee entire areas of government and the commissioners who carry out the critical work of city agencies. These appointments will be driven by excellence, integrity, and a hunger to solve old problems with new solutions.
He wears a lot of rings for a guy.
On the front lines of the fight to improve our city, government veterans with proven track records, policy experts from around the country and the world, and working people who know better than anyone what our neighborhoods deserve. And this will be a period, like the campaign we ran in the city hall to come, defined by transparency, because New Yorkers deserve a government they can trust. On January 1st, I will be your mayor. New Year's Day, and a new era for this city. Oh, and one more thing. Remember how I told you a few months ago to stop sending us money? You can start again. This transition requires staff, research, and an infrastructure that can meet this moment. And it will be made possible by the people who built and believe in this movement. So I hope you make a donation at transition2025.com. Now let's get to work.
Yeah, so transition2025.com, I didn't visit that website, and I probably never plan on visiting that website because that sounds like a trap to me. I grew up in the Meatspin and lemonparty.org era, so I've clicked on a lot of links that led me to a weird spot. But how about that guy that we were convinced was going to make everything free in New York City coming out and saying, well, everything can't be free, and also, can you send me some money to help fund my transition into the mayoral office? So he ran on a platform making things affordable, making things free, somewhat of a socialist platform, and then he comes out asking for money from the working people that voted for him. Are you feeling betrayed yet? This is just ridiculous. A post came out as well with him standing there with George Soros' son, Alex Soros, and he was very proud to present the mayor. And this is the thing about it, right? Because Mamdani is a very polarizing figure, right? And I think Fiora Isabel put it in the best words, and I think I will share that with y'all. And we'll go over that a little bit together before we move on and have a great day, because we are in Connecticut, and the things that happen in New York City don't matter to us. Oh, wait, they do. And I think that's the part that we're all missing here. People can say, why are you so xenophobic? Why are you so against Zohran Mamdani being the mayor of New York City? New York City is basically America's welcome mat to the rest of the world. You have New York City, you have Los Angeles, and San Francisco. You also have Chicago, and you also have Miami. Those are the other two major cities in this country. But New York City is an international pot where business is being done, legislation is being taken care of. litigation is being taken care of, and all of the power players in the world do summit in New York City from time to time. So I think it's important that your mayor of that city, your governor of that state, where people are coming from across the world to visit, is a good representation of what it is to be American. And what it is to be American, take away skin color, take away race, take away all of that. It's a foundation of principles. It's not about who the person looks like. It's about who the person is. And I think there's been so much dissent and there's been so much disassociation of who a person is to what they look like in this country that it's become impossible to say anything about anybody. You have people who are afraid and people who are scared to offend anyone. Well, luckily for y'all, I don't give a shit. So Fiorella doesn't really give a shit either, and this is what she has to say. The Mamdani Psyop, okay? Keen on that word there. It hinges on convincing the gullible right he's a radical, communist jihadist who will impose Sharia law, and the shit liberals he's a social democrat who will bring feel-good changes for yuppies and underpaid millennials in New York City. The truth is that he's neither, but he's simply there to keep the two sides fighting over a character that doesn't exist. He's not going to better the lives of New Yorkers. He's not going to take on Zionism. He's talking about anti-Semitism already. That's the other thing, right? The first day after he's elected, everybody wakes up and what do they see? They see a swastika that was spray painted on a Jewish day school. Now, 2 days go by and the CCTV footage comes out of an Orthodox Jew spray painting that swastika. Already just kind of bolstering their brand new hoax. Oh boy, he had on a disguise. It wasn't one of us. It's bullshit, okay? It's all tricks, because what you see is a picture and you run with it, and people run with it for miles before they take a chance to critically think about the situation. But yes, he's not going to take on Zionism, even though he's already talking about anti-Semitism. And because I pointed out the fact that the Orthodox Jew was the man who spray painted the swastika, I will probably now be labeled as an anti-Semitist. But I'll tell you right now, Israel, if you're willing to pay me $7,000 a month to speak glowingly about your country, I'm in need of some extra cash here. So come on, I'm very easily swayed, I guess. He's certainly no communist, nor is he even remotely a threat to the establishment. His election is of zero significance to Palestinians or U.S. imperialism, to which he will simply add a better flavor for Usians? What's a Yushin? Flavor for Yushins. I don't know. The way she spells flavor makes me think that she's not American, but I can figure out what Usians is. Asian. I might need Urban Dictionary for this one. Asian is an informal term for a native or resident of the United States, used as an alternative to American. Okay, so it's like a USian. It's not even. That's just getting lazy with words. All right. Anyway. To which he will simply add a better flavor for Americans. But let's be real. That's all 80% of Americans care about anyway. They don't really care about the world beyond their slogans. On the contrary, he's rather a part of the elite, beyond Soros, which is an obvious indicator, that will continue to divide the masses to fight over a fake poser just like Obama or AOC, all of who are not anti-establishment, but a progressive rebranding of it, necessary to dupe the idiot left into trying reformist policies for the 2,992,949th time and continue to fail. And also necessary to alienate the entire country away from any actual anti-establishment organization by convincing the idiot right that he's an Islamic commie. It's absolutely insane to watch this from across the world, to watch exactly how none of the so-called progressive podcasters have moved an inch toward intelligence, be it for money or clout, and the right just eat whatever red meat is thrown at them, even if it's fake, because they're animals. They are barbaric animals. Sad and also alarming, but totally confirms that the USA is far, far from understanding the root problem is that they've had zero democracy or say in government for a long time. that they've been manipulated to be distracted by this dumb reality TV election show, purposely divided instead of watching theatrics unfold, election after election, as the empire crumbles around them, and the elite make their moves to save themselves while laughing at the brainless masses, doing exactly as they expected. But this is your own doing. You play into the game, and it will continue to play until you stop. There they are. They look like a proud couple, proud of their achievements in duping the American people. But this is the truth. And this all comes full circle with the Disney crap, okay? Because what these people are, what these shills are shills for corporations, whether it be Raytheon and military advancement. I don't even need to zoom that out. It doesn't matter. I'm not looking at it anymore. Whether it be Raytheon and military advancements, whether it be food companies and what they're able to sneak into their products, no matter what it is, this company is run by corporations and it's not run by the people. This is a democracy. It's not a democratic republic where it's not a republic even, where the true vote, where the true decisions are coming from the people, from the citizens themselves. These people are figureheads. They sit inside of the Electoral College, and they decide ultimately who will be the president. So what does that make you think about everything that they ever had to say about Trump? Hopefully, over the last year now, it's been a year since Trump was elected again, you've realized this show for what it is. There are still a ton of people who are vehemently supporting Donald Trump, and that's okay. I understand it's hard to admit when you're wrong sometimes, but it became very clear to me right away that the America First platform that people were campaigning on was thrown to the wayside once the office was taken. This is exactly what we just watched in real time with Zohran Mamdani. He platformed on making things affordable for New Yorkers. He platformed on giving back to the working class. And the first thing that he does is ask for donations from the exact people that voted him in, asking for help. With everything that there was against Mamdani, what you didn't have was anything really for him. What was he really campaigning on that made sense? We live in America, okay? We live in a place where we have freedom, but even freedom isn't free. Nothing's ever going to be free. And if you're just asking for help, you're asking to get stomped on. And they're showing that again with the EBT situation and this government shutdown. They're trying to make a situation where we are so dependent on the government that they have to step in and control every step that we take. And that's not the most free way to move forward. That's not the way that I plan on moving forward. And that's something that we'd have to resist. It's interesting, though, how she says, when will we wake up and stop it? It's very hard for us to stop it because we're not controlling. If what we say has no say, what can we say other than what we can do? All we can do is take action, which is kind of a weird place to be in. That's kind of a thing that I don't think I should be talking about like this, because that might make me out to be some sort of DT. The other DT, the one that's worse than Donald Trump. I don't think I want to say it necessarily. It could put me on a list or something. I don't know. I'm not really that worried about it, but I'm not here trying to promote domestic terrorism. That's for certain. What I do want to promote is that we look out for one another. You look out for your people, and it takes a village to grow. It doesn't take an overbearing hand to grow. Okay, you think about it, like you grow up your whole life and you want to defy everything your parents ever say, and then you get to a point where you can vote, and the government is just kind of like your parents. Like they make all these rules that make no sense, and you got to follow them, or else you're in trouble. And then you realize even sometimes when you don't follow the rules, you don't really get in the type of trouble that they say. So it was all kind of bullshit to begin with, and that's kind of what you get with this whole runaround. And then we voted in Donald Trump. He said he was America first. He said we were going to release the Epstein files. And what does he do besides give a ton of money to NVIDIA to make microchips in America, give a ton of money to Apple, give a ton of money to a bunch of corporations? He's continuing to fund the war in Ukraine. He's continuing to fund Israel and what they're doing to their neighbors, which is every single neighbor. It's Syria, it's Palestine, it's Lebanon. They're all getting bombed. And why do you think the Middle East is so upset with American people? Why do you think you hear the news telling you these people in this section of the world want death to America? Well, probably because we're funding the death to them. I'm not saying it's okay for anybody to say, hey, I want America to die, but what I'm saying is what we're doing is not okay either. What I'm saying is that we're also being tricked, and it's not fun. It's not a fun realization when you look up to people and they pull the wool right over your eyes, or they pull the carpet from underneath your feet. That is what's happening to us on a regular basis, and it's funded, okay? Now, Mamdani's coming under fire here. They're talking about his campaign funds and how a lot of it could be from outside agencies and foreign agencies, and that could be a violation of campaign, and he could be arrested for it. Will that happen? I'm not sure. There's supposed to be a foreign lobby for donations made from foreign countries. Every country has a lobby for the donations that they make to us in America here. Every country except AIPAC. And if you look at who AIPAC, the American-Israeli PAC, who they funded the most leading up into this year, it was Donald Trump. $229 million went to his campaign trail. And does that make sense as to why he's trying to bring a ceasefire to the Gaza-Israeli conflict, and he allows Benjamin Netanyahu to defy him on a weekly basis? Does that seem like the strong leader that we thought he was? Or does it seem like somebody who's bought and paid for? How come every time the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, makes a statement, it looks like he's being held hostage? Or like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, they look like they're scared out of their mind every time they talk. Because they probably are. They're probably being threatened. And we're probably not in control of our country at all. But a wise man who was once killed by the same exact people that are killing people today, he asked a very valuable question. He asked a very valuable question that I'm going to ask you right here today. As we fight against this corporate greed with Disney, as we fight against the psyops in the government, as we fight against everything, and we try to keep ourselves clear-headed and on the straight and narrow, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You can follow me on social media, on Twitter at Bump of TTS. You can follow me on TikTok, bookmarkswbump. If you're not into the whole podcast and you just want to see clips or me in the gym working out, whatever it is, that's where I'm at. If you need help with personal training, or if you have a thread of your own that you'd like to suggest I read, email me at bookmarkswbump@gmail.com. And as always, it's all love. God bless. I always do that.
I'm a night rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply